My name is Alexis Ashford. I am 33 years old. I live alone in apartment 3A. My apartment is on the third floor of a building in Richmond, Virginia. I moved here 8 months ago. I wanted a fresh start in a new city. I did not say the word escape, but I wanted something like that too. My week is the same every week. I run every morning at 6 o'clock. I run for 40 minutes near the river. The streets are quiet at that hour. I like it that way. I come home after my run, shower, and go to work. I work at the hospital 5 days a week. On Thursday evenings, I help at a reading group. People come to practice their reading. I sit with them and listen. On Sundays, I call my mom. We talk for about 30 minutes. She tells me about her garden. I tell her work is good. My week is full. But it does not feel heavy. It just feels like a week. I work in the social work department at the hospital. My job is to help patients find the right services. Some patients do not know where to look for help. I find those services for them. Some patients feel scared or lost. I sit with them. I explain their choices in a clear and calm way. I find the right words for hard moments. I am the steady person in the room. When other people feel panic, I stay calm. My boss says I am excellent at my job. My coworkers ask me for advice. I always have an answer. I always know the next step. I want to say one thing now. I say it, and then I move on. I did not cry for about 2 years. I am not sure exactly what that means. I do not think about it too much, but it is true. One evening in November, I came home from a long day at work. I put my bag near the door. I took off my coat and my shoes. I started to walk to the kitchen, but I stopped. I looked at the floor near my front door. A small piece of paper sat there. Someone put it under the door from the hallway. I picked it up. I unfolded it slowly. The note was handwritten. The letters were neat and small. Someone wrote it with care. It said this: "Hi, my name is Becca. I am the daughter of the man in apartment 3B. I live very far away. My father is okay, but he is not really okay. He will not ask for help. He says he does not need anyone. Please do not believe him. Can you check on him sometimes? You do not need to do anything big. Just be nearby. Thank you. Becca." I read the note 2 times. My first thought was clear and professional. Someone needed help. I help people every day. I could go next door. I could check on this man. I could find out what he needed. I could do something useful. But there was a second thought, too. A different one. A quieter one. I did not look at it closely. I just folded the note and set it on my table. I walked to my front door and opened it. I went out into the hallway. I walked to apartment 3B. I knocked 3 times. A man opened the door. He was tall. He moved without hurry. He had gray hair and a calm, steady face. He looked at me. He did not look happy to see a stranger at his door. I know that look well. It is the look of a person who does not want help from anyone. I said, "Hi. My name is Alexis. I live next door. In apartment 3A. He said, "You found the note." It was not a question. I said yes. He looked at me for a long moment. His face did not change much. Then he said, "You can come in if you want. I did not make food tonight. But there is a chair." I stepped inside his apartment. The room was quiet. I looked around slowly. The place was tidy. but it did not feel empty. It felt full in a certain way, like two people lived there. Like two people always lived there for a very long time. I looked at the kitchen counter. I saw two coffee mugs, one mug on the left side, one mug on the right side. I looked at that second mug. It sat there, clean and still. I said nothing about it. I walked to the chair near the window. I sat down. His name was Juan Webb. He was 61 years old. I went back the next evening. I cooked my dinner as I always did. I made a little extra food. I put some of it in a small container. I walked to apartment 3B and knocked. Juan opened the door. He looked at the container in my hand. He did not say thank you. He did not say please come in. But he moved to the side. So I came in. This became a pattern over the next 2 weeks. I knocked. He opened the door. I came in. We sat at his small kitchen table. We talked for maybe 30 or 40 minutes. He never asked me to come back, but he never said do not come back. So I kept coming. Each visit was similar, but not the same. One evening, he talked about an old film he watched. He said most films today did not take their time. He said good films needed patience from the viewer. Another evening, he told me a short story about a student from his last year of teaching. The student wrote an essay about a mistake in a famous history book. Juan said the student was right. He said the student was more careful than the book. He seemed proud of that student. Even now, Juan was polite. He was not warm, but he was not cold. He said what he thought in a clear and direct way. He did not say a lot, but sometimes he said something so dry and unexpected that I laughed before I knew it. One evening, he described the television news as a disaster for intelligent people. He said it with a very calm voice. I laughed out loud. He looked at me. I think he liked that. Over those 2 weeks, I learned small things about him. He taught history for 34 years. He taught in the same school in Richmond for most of his career. He retired 2 years ago. He made his own bread every single Saturday. He said bread needed real attention and real patience. He said most people today did not have enough of either. He had strong opinions about television too. He said most shows only wanted your attention. They did not want to tell you something true or important. He called this a crisis of ambition. I did not fully agree, but I liked how he talked about it. I also noticed things in his apartment. Each time I came, I saw 2 coffee mugs on the kitchen counter. Each time, I saw a woman's soft gray cardigan on the hook near the front door. It never moved from that hook. I saw a small wooden desk in the corner. A neat stack of sealed envelopes sat on it. The envelopes looked deliberate, like someone put them there carefully and on purpose. I did not ask about any of these things. I know how to wait. At work, I wait for people to talk when they are ready. Waiting is a professional skill. I am very good at it. But something else was also true. Waiting kept me at a comfortable distance. I did not need to ask. I did not need to get close. And I did not look at that fact too closely. One evening, I was in the middle of telling Juan about a program at the hospital. It was a support program for older people. They could get help with food, transport, and medicine. I thought this information was useful for Juan. I spoke in my warmest and most professional voice, clear and friendly and helpful. Juan put his coffee cup down on the table. He put it down slowly. He looked at me. He said, "You do your job right now." I said, I only want to tell you about something that could help. He said, you are not here as a neighbor. You are here as a social worker. I can see the difference. You choose every word very carefully, but you do not say anything real. I went very still. My first thought was to defend myself, to say, I am just trying to help. That is what I do. But a second thought came after that. Slower, more honest. He was right. I came to his apartment like he was a case at work, like he was a person with a problem for me to solve. Not a neighbor, not a friend, a case. I went home that night. I felt irritated. I told myself, he is a difficult man. He does not know what help looks like. But I did not sleep well. I stayed in my bed for a long time. I kept thinking about what he said. I came back to it again and again. The next afternoon, I knocked on his door. I did not bring food. I did not bring any information. I did not bring my work voice. He opened the door. I said, do you want to walk? Not for any reason, just a walk outside. He looked at me. He seemed to think about it. Then he said, give me 2 minutes. We walked in the neighborhood for about 30 minutes. The air was cool and clear. We did not talk much, but the silence was not uncomfortable. It was the kind of quiet that feels natural, easy, good. On that walk, I noticed something. I did not think about work. I did not organize my thoughts. I did not plan anything at all. I just walked and looked at the street and the trees. I am not sure when I last did that. Walked with no purpose, no plan, just moved forward and was present. It was the first time in months that I did not think about something useful. This was the real beginning. Everything before it was just practice. 3 more weeks went by. The walks continued. Sometimes the walks led back to his apartment for coffee. On Saturdays, something new began. Juan offered to teach me to make bread. I was not good at it. I knew this almost immediately. I pushed the dough too hard every time. Juan stood beside me and watched. He shook his head slowly. He said, less pressure. Let it rest. Stop pushing it so hard. I tried, but I pushed too hard again the very next time. He watched. He did not get frustrated. We both knew I was not a natural bread person. We were honest about this together. It was funny in a quiet and easy way. I liked that we could be honest about it. On one of those Saturday mornings, Juan talked about Elaine. He did not use a careful or sad voice. He did not choose gentle words to protect himself. He talked about her the way you talk about a person who is still very real and present to you, like she was in the next room, like she could walk in at any moment. He said, Elaine burned everything she cooked. Every single thing. Toast, rice, vegetables, soup. Everything came out too dark, and she never admitted it. She always looked at the food and said, it is fine. It is just a little dark. She said this with a straight and serious face. Every time. Juan laughed when he told me this. It was a real, warm, full laugh. He said Elaine read every Steinbeck book, every one of them. She had a strong opinion about each one. She argued with Juan about the characters and the stories. She was good at arguments. She used facts and feelings at the same time. Juan said she was usually right, but he never told her that when she was alive. He said Elaine put small yellow notes on the bathroom mirror. She did this all the time. The notes said things like, Today, be less annoying. Or, drink more water. You never drink enough. His face went soft when he talked about those notes. He looked at something far away when he described them. I sat and listened. I never heard anyone talk about a person this way before. Not after that person was gone. Most people use a careful and controlled voice. They protect themselves from the full weight of the loss. But Juan did not protect himself. He just talked about her, naturally and freely. Elaine was still real to him, still present, still there in the room with us. In a way, I started to ask questions about Elaine. I asked, like she was a person I could still meet one day. What did she like to read besides Steinbeck? What was her job? Did she like coffee or tea in the mornings? Was she the kind of person who talked a lot at breakfast? Juan answered every question. He seemed happy when I asked. He seemed quietly grateful. One Saturday morning, I arrived a little earlier than usual. Juan sat at the small wooden desk in the corner of the living room. He wrote something on a piece of paper. He did not put the paper away when I came in. He did not try to hide it. I asked, "What do you write?" He said, "I write a letter to Elaine every Sunday. I take it to the cemetery on Mondays. I started this the week after she died. I do it every week." I said, "What do you write about?" He said, "What happened this week? What I thought about? What made me angry? The bread. You lately." I sat with that for a long moment. The room was quiet. What he said was not sad in the way I expected. It was not strange or obsessive or heavy. It was the most committed thing I ever saw a person do. He still told her about his week, not because she answered, not because it brought her back, but because the love was still there and it still needed somewhere to go. He always showed up for her. He never stopped. A few days later, we walked near a small park. The trees were bare. We walked slowly and said nothing for a while. Then Juan asked about Keith. He asked only one question. He said, "Were you happy with him?" I opened my mouth. I wanted to say, yes. That was the easy answer, the organized answer, but I stopped. I thought about it. I really thought about it. Maybe for the first time, I remembered Keith. I remembered I organized everything with him. I helped him when work was stressful. I planned our weekends. I managed our problems well. I did all of it every day for 5 years. But I tried to remember one moment when I was just there. Not helpful, not useful, not managing anything. Just me, present, with him. I could not find that moment. I looked for it, and it was not there. I said, "I do not know." "I thought I was." Juan said, "That is a hard thing to find out." He did not try to comfort me. He did not offer any solution. He did not say it was okay. He just kept walking. And I walked beside him. I understood something new that day. Real grief comes when real love is there. I did not really grieve Keith when our relationship ended. Not because it was painless, but because I was never fully inside it. I managed it from a safe distance. I was in the same room with him every day, but I was never really there. It was a Wednesday morning. I got ready for work in my apartment. Then I heard a sound from Juan's apartment through the thin wall between us. Something was wrong. I heard a low thud. Then I heard nothing. I walked fast to his door. I knocked. I waited. No sound. I knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing. Juan gave me a spare key 2 weeks before. He said, "Take this, in case I fall. I am 61 years old. Not stupid." I took the key from my jacket pocket. I put it in the lock. I opened his door and walked in. I found Juan on the kitchen floor. He was awake. His eyes were open and clear. He looked embarrassed. He waved his hand at me like he wanted me to leave. He said, "I am fine. I got a little dizzy." I sat down on the floor, and then I could not get up on my own. "That is all it is." I said, "Okay, stay there. I call for help right now." He said, "Alexis, please. I do not need that." I said, "I hear you, but I call anyway." I was calm. I am always calm in moments like this. I know exactly what to do. I called the emergency number. The ambulance arrived quickly. The paramedics were kind and professional. We went to the hospital. The doctors checked his heart. They checked his blood. His heart was not in serious danger. He needed rest and different medicine. The doctors wanted to keep him overnight for observation. I sat in the hospital waiting room. I sat there for 4 hours. I did not leave. I did not check my work messages. I did not plan anything or organize anything in my mind. I did not tell myself it was my professional duty to stay. I just stayed. He was in there. I wanted to be nearby. That was the whole reason. I looked at the other people in the waiting room. An older woman slept in a chair. A young man looked at his phone. 2 children sat very still beside their father. All of us waited for the same reason. Someone in there mattered to us. The next day, Becca arrived from Seattle. She came on the first morning flight. She walked into the hospital with a suitcase and a tight, scared face. She loved her father very much. I saw that in the first minute. She was warm and kind and fast. She made plans before she sat down in a chair. She wanted to move Juan to a good place near her home in Seattle, a safe place, a place with medical people nearby all the time, a place where someone watched over him every day. She wanted to sell his apartment in Richmond. She wanted her father close. She did all of this out of real love. I did not doubt that. Juan said no. He was calm and clear. He was not angry or loud. He just said, no. He did not want to leave Richmond. He lived in that city for 32 years, most of them with Elaine. Elaine's grave was in Richmond. Their life together was in Richmond. He was not ready to leave any part of it. Becca looked at me. She asked, "Alexis, do you think he is being reasonable?" She wanted me on her side. She wanted another caring person to agree with her. She wanted me to say, "Yes, it is safer. Yes, this is the right move." Every professional part of me said, "Stay neutral. Use careful language. Validate both sides." I know those words well. I use them at work every day, but I did not use them in that room. I said, "I think Juan knows what he needs better than either of us. He does not manage every day on his own very well. That is true, and I do not argue with it. But what he has here is not a problem to move away from. It is the reason he is still himself. You move him from this place to Seattle, and maybe he is safer. But I am not sure he is still him." Becca looked at me. She did not speak. Juan looked at me from the hospital bed. His face changed a little. It was not thanks, not relief. Something quieter than both. He saw me. really saw me, not as a helper, as a person who said something true out loud. It was the first time in 8 months I said something true in a hard and real situation. Not something careful, not something useful, something honest. Just that. Becca flew back to Seattle. She was not fully happy, but she listened. They agreed on a plan. A homemade came 2 times each week. I checked on Juan every day. Becca called every Friday. It was not perfect, but it was honest. Juan went home. On Saturday, he made his bread. He moved a little slower, but he made it. On Sunday, he wrote his letter to Elaine. On Monday, he walked. Slower than before, but he walked. I went back to my apartment. I sat on my couch. My apartment was very clean. Every item was in its correct place. The food had neat labels. Everything was in perfect order. But I felt something heavy in my chest. I looked at it that night. I really looked. For the first time, I thought about Juan. He wrote to Elaine every Sunday. He took the letter to the cemetery every Monday. Not because she answered, but because the love was still real. He always showed up. He never stopped. I thought about Keith. He said something to me once. He said, "You are easier to talk to than to be with." I thought about those words many times, but that night, I understood them for the first time. I looked at my apartment, the labels, the full schedule, the organized week. I was very good at managing my life, but I was not really inside it. I took care of it all from a safe distance. Helping is not the same as being present. Managing is not the same as love. The difference between them is everything. I picked up my phone. I found Keith's name. My hands did not shake. I pressed call. He answered on the 3rd ring. His voice was quiet. I said, "I do not call to fix anything. I just want to say I am sorry. I was with you every day for 5 years, but I was never really there. I did not know a person could do that. Now I know." Keith was quiet. Then he said, "I know." We talked a little more, only about that one true thing. Then I said goodbye. He said goodbye. I sat in the dark, and I cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just slow and quiet. Something sat in my chest for a very long time. I put it down that night. I let the tears come. After a while, they stopped. I made tea. I went to bed. 3 months went by. Juan did better. Not perfectly, but honestly better. The aide came on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Becca called every Friday. I came on Saturdays for bread. Something was different about me. I did not plan my visits. I just took off my coat. I asked Juan how he slept. I told him something funny from work. I was just there, present and real. One Sunday morning, I sat in his apartment. He wrote his letter. The room was warm. Coffee sat on the table. The bread cooled on the counter. I picked up a small notebook. I started to write. Not a letter. Not a plan. Just something about that morning. About how I felt now. Lighter. Different. Juan looked up. He said, "What do you write?" I said, "Nothing. Something. I am not sure yet." He said, "That is the best kind." We wrote in silence. It felt good. Later, Juan looked at me at his door. He said, "Alexis, I did not need you to fix anything. I needed someone nearby. so I could remember I was still here. But I think you needed the same thing. I stood in the hallway. I thought about the note under the wrong door, the first walk with no plan, the letters to the cemetery, the phone call that fixed nothing but still mattered. I always wanted people to need me. It was the only way I knew how to stay. I never saw that before, but I saw it now. I went back to my apartment. I opened the window. I do not usually open the window. I put food in the refrigerator. I did not write labels this time. Small things, but they felt like real choices, and that was new. He needed me nearby, and I needed somewhere to be. We found each other in the hallway. Neither of us looked for the other. That is the most human thing I know about this year. I used to think showing up meant being useful. Now I know it means being there. Honest. A little wrong sometimes. But there. That is enough. That is everything. Thank you for listening. If this story stays with you, please share it with someone today. Subscribe to Teddy English Story for more stories. See you next time.
Okay, I'll be honest with you guys. This one sat with me for a couple of days. The detail I can't stop thinking about. Those two coffee mugs on Juan's counter. Every single time, he never put the second one away. I mean, that's not a man who's fine alone. That's a man still living with someone who isn't there. And the letters every Sunday, the cemetery on Mondays. Look, I've seen people lose someone and try to move on fast. Juan didn't. He just kept showing up for her. That, to me, is the whole story right there. And I'm not gonna lie, had a problem with Becca too. I know, she loved him. But wanting to pack him up and ship him to Seattle? That wasn't safety at all. That was her own fear talking. Alexis calling that out loud was the bravest thing in the whole thing. The line that broke me was Keys. They're easier to talk to than to be with. Oops. Anyone who ever dated someone who managed instead of show up, you know that one. So tell me honestly, when Becca asked Alexis if her dad was being reasonable, would you have backed Becca or sided with Sean? No middle ground answer. Pick one. Throw it below, and I really want to read this. Thank you for watching.